Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to a new tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well, enjoying the lovely sunshine. We're having a heat wave over here in Ireland, so it's roasting, absolutely roasting. It's cool enough in the studio at the moment for a tutorial. It's early in the morning, so I'm going to crack on before it gets too hot. This week I'm going to paint something nice, relaxing, some loose brush work, palette knife work. It's kind of half abstract. So you can put loads of thick paint on the canvas with a palette knife and drag it along and all of that. This is what I'm going to paint for you this week. Lovely light against dark and a silhouette of a person walking with a red umbrella. I think that's going to make a lovely tutorial. So without further ado, let's get ahead with this. Let's give it a go. I have my canvas ready, 16 by 12 upright, few colours on my palette, and that's it. Very little drawing or sketching in this painting, just very loose brushwork. Okay, let's give it a go. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and do subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you don't mind, if you would be so kind. Let's go, let's have a bit of fun. All right, let's go. There's the reference photograph up there. You should see it up on the left of your screen. My colours, let's go through my colours. Nice colourful palette today. Titanium white, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow pale, cadmium red, burnt umber, magenta, phthalo blue, lamp black and burnt sienna. Nice colourful palette for a nice range of colours. My canvas I oiled. Okay, I gave this a quick rub with some linseed oil. So literally on a bit of tissue like this. Okay, I just give it a quick once over. The only reason being we're going to be working kind of quickly with the background and I want to blend colours together. Also it's getting very hot, so I don't want colours soaking into the canvas too soon. Okay, I want to keep the colours nice and wet. So look, let's have a look and maybe put in a couple of lines. I'm just going to pick the point of the horizon where it disappears. I'm going to say around here somewhere. Then it comes back like this, doesn't it? And this side comes back like this. That gives us a nice perspective, doesn't it? This could kind of pretty much disappear off into the distance like that. You see what I mean? Disappear away off. We have lots of buildings and stuff like that. I don't think we need to do any more sketching as such. It's simply a case of going right in with the brush now and putting colours on. Okay? Lots of colour. I'm taking a nice soft brush. I use soft synthetic brushes. Okay? That's basically what they are. Look, cheap, soft, synthetic brushes. I don't use bristles, only for fan brushes. So these are lovely and soft. Look, lovely. Look at that. Lovely. Get some nice blending with this. Let's dampen our brush slightly with some thinners. My thinners, by the way, is turpentine with a little linseed oil mixed in. Just a little bit. Let's dampen the brush. I have a lovely bright blue up here, don't we? We've kind of a whitey blue. Let's take some titanium white, a little bit of phthalo blue. Be careful with your phthalo blue because it's a very rich colour, okay? A little goes a long way. That's probably the best way of explaining it. A little bit goes very far. Right up in the middle, we have this lovely blue, don't we? Bright, bright, whitey blue. So, with all these brush strokes for the top of the painting, I'm going to be going up and down pretty much most of it, okay? So, up and down to give us the effect of kind of buildings off in the distance. Now you might not be able to see that very well, but it's there. More phthalo blue, then a little touch of lamp black, and then more white into that. We don't want to go too dark. The buildings will get darker and darker as they come closer to us to give us that lovely perspective. I'm going to take a touch of Naples yellow as well, because I don't know if you can see the reference photograph very well. You can screenshot the video and download, crop in the reference photograph if you need it. But there's a kind of a greeny, bluey hue in those buildings off in the distance. I don't know if you can see it very well now, but it's a kind of a greeny, bluey sort of a colour. I'm going to start with the building here. It's going to come straight down like that. I'll try and be straight as I can. And then let's just taper it off. Now, the thing about this type of painting is, look, I'm not going to look at the reference photograph too much. The purpose for the reference photograph really is for colour and complementing colours. With the buildings, you can kind of make these any way you like, really. It's up to yourself. You don't have to copy this photograph exactly. And I don't like copying photographs in general, completely the same. But I'm just going to kind of give a suggestion of a few suggestions of buildings. See what I mean? Just kind of some lines off in the distance, a couple of square edges. And the great thing about painting like this is you can be very loose and just enjoy it. Try and enjoy what you're doing. Look, I'm going to put a couple off in the distance like that, softening them in together, a couple of kind of square angles, just to suggest that it goes off into the distance. Now, it's still a bit blue. I'm going to start adding a bit more black, all right? A bit of lamp black in there. That will kind of dull the colour down and darken it down a bit more. I'm going to then cut in front of some of these with another slightly darker shade. So you can see what I'm doing is just slightly darker shades as it comes back. That's all it is. I think a bit more of that, and I'm thinking a tiny hint of burnt umber as well. We have a nice dark one here, don't we? Let's put that in. I like working wet into wet like this because you can get these lovely soft effects, especially for this type of a painting where they all soften together. Now we do have lots of light coming up this way, don't we? Like that. So I'm just going to put a quick line up like that, okay? You know, these type of effects, they're really nice. So I'm simply going to go along now and just suggest little bits and pieces, little lines, see what I mean? Horizontal lines, just to suggest these buildings off in the distance. Let's get a bit more black, maybe a touch of sienna. We could go with a touch of sienna as well. I will put a little bit of detail in here then as well in a moment. Okay, I'm just going along, making the colours darker and darker, being very loose with my brush strokes, okay? And already you can begin to see the effect. Now, one thing I do want to do with this, we have little points of light off in the distance with this. I'm going to take a little touch of white on the tip of a pointy brush. I'm just going to kind of suggest little highlights as if there's kind of little lights and windows and all that kind of stuff off in the distance. Just one or two here and there. Look, a couple. It's only a suggestion, okay? That's all it is. Just to suggest to the viewer that they are in fact buildings. Very tall buildings. You can see what I'm doing? I'm just dabbing them in like that, very gently. Just one or two here and there. Okay? Now, with that done, I'm going to take a soft brush. Okay, I have a lovely soft brush here, a makeup brush. I'm going to very gently just drag them down. I want to soften all of this off into the distance, okay? To make it nice and soft and fuzzy. That's the word of today, I think, fuzzy. There we go. Softening them all down. Bringing all the colours together. Even with the white parts as well. Look, we can soften them in as well. It could even give the impression of rain coming down, couldn't it? Next, we're going to start doing all this dark stuff around it. I'm going to go nice and dark with this now and warm. It's very warm. I'm going to go with burnt umber. Plenty of burnt umber. I'm going to go with some magenta to make it nice and warm. A little bit more thinners and a touch of black, perhaps. We could kind of start with that, I think, and then I'm going to be putting in some very deep purples as well. So maybe even a bit more black. And a tiny touch of that blue. I'm just going, it's a very dark colour, okay? I want to start off with my dark shades. And I put my highlights over those shades then in a moment, okay? So I just want to kind of get all the background colours in. And I want to soften these to create that perception of distance, okay? You see the way I'm just kind of going like that, back out again, back down, another one here, softening off into the distance. You see what I mean? Already it's starting to look like rows of buildings, isn't it? So let's try that again. Let's get a bit more magenta this time. And we do the same on the other side. A little bit of black, magenta, burnt umber, and very same on this side. You see what I mean? I'm just going along. They disappear off into the distance, look. Okay, just like that. We have the impression then of lovely buildings. Now, I'm going to darken all of this. I'm going to first make up a nice mix of a purple, right? Let's try this now. I want to show you. So, a nice deep purple, phthalo blue and magenta. Just going to mix everything in the same place. Okay? Plenty of magenta. I'm going to put a deep purple. That needs more magenta, doesn't it? A nice pinky purple is the colour I'm going for. Keep adding more magenta as you need. So a nice pinky purple. Let's go. Let's just have a bit of fun with this. Softening that deep purple into the distant buildings. And notice all my brush strokes are up and down. That's all. Quite simple, up and down. Okay? Bring that right down here to the roadside. And that's the base colour for my darks. This really rich, deep purple, okay? That's just a base colour. This is going to be our shadows later on. So our deep shadows will show through this with this colour, all right? Just get a nice deep, deep, deep purple, plenty of magenta into this, a nice pinky plum sort of a colour, just to get some distance and to pick out the deep shadows and all of this. Right, now I'm going to go much darker, okay? Now this is nice and straightforward. We start off with light colours and we bring out some dark colours at the very front, okay? It's just basic. Let's just have a bit of fun. Now, black. I'm going to go into black and a bit of blue. And I'm going to start maybe picking out shapes. Now I want this nice and strong, so lots of thick paint on its own, okay? I want to start picking out shapes. So you could have windows and ledges and all that kind of stuff, okay? Let's start up here. Look, I'm going to pick out some shapes. It could be anything. It could be balconies, it could be signage as well. That's very important, isn't it? So it could be anything like that. It's just simply suggesting detail. That's what we're doing, in fact. We're just suggesting to the viewer that there's lots of different details in these buildings without going into too much detail, if you understand what I mean. So look, you can kind of dab, drag the brush up and down. That sort of effect. So already you can see we have this, cityscape forming. And it's really nice, isn't it? And we've the same over here. Look, we can just put some dabs of colour, horizontal dabs of colour like that. We can put pieces sticking out. It's all just to promote detail without painting actual details, if you know what I mean. It's suggesting that there's lots of different stuff going on in these buildings. That's really what it's about, isn't it? I picked up a bit of cadmium red there by accident. That's fine. Get a little bit of warmth in the painting. So look, just little dabs with the corner of the brush, suggesting all of this lovely detailed stuff going on. Now, look at that lovely depth we have already. That's fantastic, isn't it? Next, I'm going to add a couple of highlights, I think, to this. So we do have a few little small highlights here and there. I'll simply take a bit of phthalo blue with some white. It's going to be kind of on the darker side. So we just dab a couple of highlights here and there, like so. You see what I mean? Just little highlights popping out. So the light is catching some of these. See what I mean? It's just catching from that distance, catching the fronts of some of these buildings and suggesting little details here and there. You could even go like that too. Look, just give it a swoosh down, step it out, give it another one. I'm not even looking at the reference photograph now, my friends. I'll be quite honest, I'm not looking at it. It's only just here and there. I'm glancing at the reference photograph, but I'm pretty much doing all this myself, okay? I find if you look at a reference photograph too much, it can get overwhelming, okay? That's what I would say to you. It can. So I'm just being very, very loose now with all of this. I'm just dabbing the brush here and there, just trying to give the effect that there's bits and pieces over here, just kind of popping out. You see what I mean? Just little tiny, tiny suggestions. Now I'm going to clean my brush, go right into some white, just a bit of white on its own, I suppose, and I'm going to just dab a little bit more highlight on some of those. Just again suggesting, and it's all mixing together. You see the colours just mixing together. Now, so far, I think that's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. The next thing I'm going to do is start creating a lot of warm colours down towards the end of this. So I'm going to start the next stage of all these lights. You see all those lights and stuff down at this side. So I'm going to clean my brush just quickly, quite well, just to get the bulk of that colour out of my brush. So it's not spotless, but it's, you know, it's halfway. Okay, now that's good enough. I'm going to start putting warmth into all of this. Now we need to think about warmth and composition. We need to think about complementary colours. If I start putting oranges and yellows into all this, okay, because there's a lot of blue undertones in this, they'll go green. So you can't just, with oils, you cannot just go yellow, orange, 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 orange and yellows like this for lights. You need to gradually introduce the colours. So I start with reds, okay, browny reds. I'm going to take some cadmium red and some burnt sienna, okay, maybe even some magenta. The reason for that is because we have a lot of blue here already. We need to go a lot of red first, okay? So we're transitioning slowly from a blue to a red to oranges, then to yellows. You can't just, well, I wouldn't suggest putting an orange directly on this because it will just go green and muddy. So if I just take a nice deep red like this, look, a browny red even, and I start introducing that colour, and you see, that's going to start mixing with the bluey shades and the greys. It will mix in much nicer. You see what I mean? We have a nice, much nicer transition from the blacky blues into a warmer colour. Just clean your brush every now and then, pick up some more sienna and a little bit of cadmium red. Nice thick paint. So you see, it doesn't go muddy then or anything like that. It just slowly transitions into this lovely warm colour. Clean the brush again, pick some of that back up. So by using a red base first, you're helping the painting later on down the line. You see what I mean? Just hints of red, soften it through. That's where a lot of people get confused with oil painting, because mixing certain colours together will get lots of muddy colours. I don't want muddy colours. I want nice, fresh colours. You can see already how that's now starting to warm nicely, isn't it? It's getting nice and warm. Now because we have lots of red on there, we can start moving to burnt sienna perhaps. So let's just pick up a lot of burnt sienna. So now we're going into more of the browny hues, okay? You can see that again. And that's mixing into the red just nicely, you see? And now we're starting to go into our warmer colours. So that's what a lot of painting is about, you know? It's gradually changing colours rather than going from one strong colour to another strong colour. You're gradually changing it. I'm going to go right into some magenta. Okay, let's try a nice pinky shade here. Because when we put our reds and our oranges and yellows on top of this magenta, we're going to get lovely warm shades later on. So look, we can soften it up. Bring it right down here. Then we can pick up some cadmium red on its own. I'm getting ready for all these lamp shades. You see the kind of orangey shades we have there, the lamp shades and all of that. I'm using this cadmium red to get ready for that later on. So that's why I'm putting all this lovely red in. When I go to put yellows on this then later, it's going to be much easier to soften those colours through. Now all we need to do is, let's try a bit of more sienna with the cadmium red and go up here slightly higher up to bring it up into the buildings. Okay, so we need that nice perspective, if you know what I mean. Cadmium red magenta again. There's not much over on this side going up high, but I will just put a bit, just a little bit, in preparation for our bright lights and stuff later on. Now what we can do next is take some cadmium red with a little cadmium yellow, not too much, so it's staying on the red side, but it's going to be a rich orangey red. Okay, with that colour now we can start putting in, you see how that just stays and it doesn't go muddy or anything like that. It's just a nice rich colour. Because we have the red and the pinks on there already, it'll mix together much easier into all these shades. And look, we can create little details as well with all of that. Let's try that again. Okay, put a bit there. There's a lot of it off in the distance. And again, this is the early stages of this painting. So I'm not going to try and finish it all in one sitting, okay? It's all just the early stages. Look, bit of yellow in there. We can pick up some rich yellow and just start dabbing highlights here, there and everywhere, just to start getting ready in preparation for later. Now another colour I see which I like is there's a bit of light pink here and there as well. I want to take some Naples yellow with magenta, okay, and there's a beautiful light pinky soft kind of a pink shade as well here and there. So I'm going to pop some of that in, and that's going to soften some of the colours back and give a little bit of depth as well to some of this. You see how that soft pink, it just pushes everything back into the distance. It really does help. Now a lot of this is going to be softened, so let's take a soft brush. Again, I want to create that fuzzy effect, so I'm just going to go right over everything I've painted, starting on the lighter colours here. You can flick it upwards, you can flick it downwards, whatever you like. I just want to create a nice soft effect, okay? You can just go sideways, you can dab it up, you can dab like this if you like. Do whatever you like with your soft brush, just to soften these shades together ever so gently. That's all I want to do, okay? These soft colours over here, I want to create a nice soft effect. So it's a rainy evening, it's nice and soft. Now I think that's phase one complete. Look at that, isn't that lovely? Now I'm very happy with that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. We have the start of all our colours put in. We can add slight details here and there if you wanted again. So we could go like that, we say something like that, you see, little solid details with your brush, just little flicks of light colour popping out here and there. Just again to pick out some of the details. This is, as I was saying, it's kind of a bit of an abstract type of painting as well, isn't it? So we're using little brushes like this just to pick out very subtle details like that. Look, you could even put in suggestions of windows with lights in them. This all helps give the impression of buildings. You see, little rows of windows. If you don't like it, you can just soften it back out again. I'm stopping at that, my friend, for part one. We'll stop now, we'll recompose ourselves, we'll get right back into it then, okay? And let me put you back a little bit and show you what this looks like now from a distance, okay? So there we go. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that looks very interesting. You want to kind of look into it, you want to go right into it, don't you? That's what I'm trying to achieve. And you can see now I just use simple techniques, but the most important technique here is going from those cool blues into reds first, all right? And then into pinks, then into browns. Don't just put an orange right over your blue, because that makes green, okay? Muddy green colours. So just go from the blues into pinks to reds to browns to warm browns and keep going that way. That should avoid any muddiness and messiness between colours. All right, I'll be right back with part two. Don't go anywhere. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. I am. I think it's coming out very nice.